Good morning, Internet dwellers. In this video, we're asking the question, is climate change real? And of course, the answer to that question is, why, yes, it is real. But that really shouldn't be the question we should be asking. The real question we should be asking is climate change bad? Ice water, delicious. The Democratic Party, the global elites, the progressives, and their useful idiots like us to believe that the answer to that question is yes. Well, I'm calling bullshit. I would like to suggest that the climate change we're experiencing might be a good thing. And unlike our progressives friends, I intend to use science to convince you that I am correct. The progressives argue that an increase in the carbon levels in our atmosphere will lead to an ecological disaster. They claim that the increase in carbon will cause the temperatures on Earth to spike to a level that will destroy all life on Earth. The problem with these conclusions is there's nothing there. Okay? Now let me explain why it's all freaking crap. Currently, the carbon levels in our atmosphere are around 400 parts per million. These carbon levels have risen recently by about 120 parts per million over the last 100 years. And here's a graph right here that shows that. Okay? The progressives love this graph. Why? Because it fits their narrative. Let me show you another graph that they don't like so much. In this graph, we see the carbon concentrations and the average temperature of the planet over millions of years. Okay? And as you can see in the beginning, in the Paleozoic period, the concentrations were well over 4,000 parts per million. Some of them spiked even higher. Okay? And then it started to drop off, and then it kind of, plateaued, right? Now, the reason this happened is because in the Paleozoic era, that's when life started to take hold on Earth. Here's a little picture or what we think it looked like back then. Okay? Now, as the plants started to grow, they started absorbing the carbon from the atmosphere, and when they died, their remains became the sediment of what eventually became the coal and oil that we use today. As this process played out over millions of years, the carbon dropped significantly till it kind of plateaued, somewhere, between 1,200 and 400 parts per million. Okay? And now, before we continue, I want to do a little disclaimer right here. Let me make something clear. I'm not claiming that burning fossil fuels isn't responsible for the increase in carbon we're seeing. What I am saying is that it's not necessarily a bad thing. And this is why the progressives hate me. Because I'm questioning their fundamental assumption, and they don't like that. Let's see if we can't piss them off a little more. Now, the carbon we are releasing through the burning of fossil fuels is the same carbon that was sequestered back in the Paleozoic era. If we were to burn all the gas and oil, all we would be doing is returning that carbon back into the atmosphere. I'm not saying we should do this, or that we not transition from fossil fuels to renewable energy. I actually support this transition. But I do not support fear-mongering by a handful of control freaks demanding that we surrender our freedom so that they can save the world. We can take our time with this transition. We don't need to sacrifice our economy, our wealth, our health, or our freedoms. We just need to relax and pursue this objective in a reasonable and measured fashion. And there are benefits to an increased carbon level in our atmosphere. What these progressives are not telling you is that the more carbon there is in the atmosphere, the faster the plants grow. Okay? Yeah. Isn't it wonderful? Now for some hardcore science. Here's a research paper that talks about this, and this knowledge is being used in business today. Let me show you an example. Here we go. Here's a business that is using an increased carbon concentration in the atmosphere of their greenhouses to significantly increase their crop yields. Ooh, I'd call that a good thing. I think I've made my point. Unfortunately, the progressives, like the zealots that ran the Inquisition, purge anyone that questions their narrative. Their single-minded pursuit of this holy crusade against reason is more than tyrannical, it's dangerous. Has anybody ever thought to think of what had happened if the carbon levels were to drop? Say to, let's say, 150 parts per million? Well, if that were to happen, all the plants on Earth would stop growing, and life on Earth would come to an end. Ironic, isn't it, that the solution to this fake crisis could cause the very thing the progressives are claiming to be trying to prevent? Let's not let these fools get us killed. Instead, let us expose their foolishness. Let us drive them from power and hold them up to ridicule, while we the people continue to build our economy and grow our wealth and enjoy our lives and share the fruits of our labors and the power of personal freedom with the world, a world that badly needs it. Anyway, that's the video for today. All glory to God. Go in peace.